How do we explain the feeling when we know we've been somewhere before? Is this feeling coincidence, or is it possible we've lived past lives? A woman in Scotland believes that she has lived before as a young king who died 450 years ago. Two sisters killed in a car accident are believed by their father to have been reincarnated as twins in the same family.
Okay. And what is the action?
I'm walking down a path in the woods.
A woman undergoes regression therapy to learn about her previous life.
As I'm walking, I start to feel that somebody's watching me.
Is it possible to discover if we have lived past lives? One of the greatest generals in the history of warfare was George S. Patton, a brilliant commander with an uncanny sense of cavalry tactics. He was a philosopher and poet, and had a fundamental belief in reincarnation. Once, as he drove through the French countryside, Patton heard the sounds of a distant battle. He was certain he had fought here before as the commander of a Roman legion, or perhaps as a Napoleonic general. General Patton's belief in reincarnation, in his timeless military experience, gave him the confidence that his decisions were right above all others. For anyone who has had that uncomfortable tingling, that memory of an event they could not possibly have witnessed, there may be a way to unlock the past. It's a technique called regression therapy. Loy and Robert Young teach reincarnation at the Experimental College at California State University at Northridge. The Youngs say past lives is not a new concept.
Reincarnation and the belief in reincarnation is a lot older than the belief in the one lifetime idea. In fact, up until the Middle Ages, a majority of people in Europe believed in some form of reincarnation or rebirth. It's only in more recent times that we've gone to this one lifetime theory. In fact, nobody's ever proved that we've only had one lifetime.
What I'd like to go over briefly is just the description of reincarnation and karma.
In seminars, the Youngs discuss the principles of life and rebirth.
Now, reincarnation just simply means that a person keeps coming back and coming back and coming back until they reach a stage of perfection.
Classes have told that problems we experience in our present lives, such as emotional traumas, can be traced to a previous existence. The Youngs feel that if we discover our past lives, we can understand and thus solve our current problems.
When you work with regression therapy, you're really going back for the cause, see? If you just stay in this lifetime, all you've got to do is to blame your parents for what went wrong with you, or maybe your early childhood training or something like that. And as soon as you can go out of this life, you're not limited to time, then you can go after the real cause of something. And when you can find the real cause of something, that's it. You're finished.
Few psychologists agree with the Youngs, who are almost alone in practicing regression therapy.
Go ahead.
Oh, hi. I'm Lloyd. Hello. How are you? That's my husband.
Lucia Capacchione is a practicing psychologist and author who for many years tried unsuccessfully to understand why she felt fear in her relationships with men. She came to the Youngs hoping she could benefit from regression therapy.
So comfortable. All right? Mm-hmm. Good. What I'd like to do first, really identify this problem that you're having with men. Could you tell me exactly what it is?
Well, I've been through a series of relationships with men in which either I'm not getting what I want out of the relationship or the man isn't. It's very unsatisfying.
Okay. Is there like sadness or is there fears? What could you identify it a little bit more closely?
Well, at this point, I feel a lot of fear about it.
Now, have you ever had, like, any reoccurring dream, anything connected with men, something that's happened over and over and over?
Lucia has recently experienced nightmares, which could be symbolic of events from a past life.
Could you tell me briefly about it?
Well, in the dream, I'm asleep in bed, and I sense the presence of a stranger, a man outside who's trying to break into the house to harm me.
Just close your eyes and relax your body. I don't want to give you the commands because I don't want you to go into a hypnotic trance in any way.
The next phase begins with a series of sensory awareness exercises to completely relax Lucia's mind and body.
And continue like that.
These therapy sessions last for several hours.
Now, if it is not in this life, then, if that's pretty sure nothing like that has ever happened, we need to focus out of this life now. Focus out of this life.
Lucia says that the incident in her nightmare has never actually occurred in this lifetime. Therefore, Loy concludes that the cause of Lucia's fears could be hidden in a past life.
Really use your intuition.
This is the key moment in regression therapy.
And there, right there. Okay.
Loy must now guide Lucia back to a previous existence.
Well, I'm in a woods in daytime. It's like early afternoon. I'm a young girl wearing a long white gown of some kind. It feels like a Greek gown, yeah. Well, I'm walking down a pathway, and I feel the leaves under my feet, and I can hear them crunching.
All right, let's move to the crisis part, and let's find out what happened.
Well, as I'm walking down this path, I'm alone. And I sense the presence of somebody behind me somewhere in the trees. There's somebody there. It feels like there's somebody watching me. And I'm really scared. I don't know what to do because I'm alone. And I don't know whether to scream or run or...
Stay with it. Just
There's somebody coming from behind me. Somebody has hands around my throat. And I can't move. I'm so scared.
all right. Going through it.
I can't see who it is because there's a black thing over my head. And I'm being pushed down to the ground. I can't see anything. I can't move. There's a man. That man killed me.
Release that life now. Release and let the lifetime go.
Mm-hmm.
And you can slowly open your eyes. There we go. And how do you feel now?
I feel better. Yeah.
See why it wouldn't unblock without going out of this life?
Yeah, I've never experienced anything like that in this lifetime.
A few weeks later, Lucia met a man and is now involved in a satisfying relationship. So from Lucia's point of view, regression therapy seems to be working. However, there are often conflicting views about reincarnation. In England, two daughters do not agree with their father's belief that they are the reincarnation of their two sisters who had been killed. Yet there are compelling reasons to support their father's opinion. Scarborough, England, May 5, 1957. Joanna Pollock, aged 11, and Jacqueline Pollock, aged 6, were walking to church when they were struck and killed by a speeding motorist. John Pollock, the father of the two girls, was devastated by the tragedy. Yet out of his profound grief and later events, he began to accept a bizarre theory.
I have no belief at all that my daughters are here other than their mortal remains. My two daughters were reincarnated.
John Pollock was convinced that, in fact, he never lost his two daughters.
Following year, my wife became pregnant. In the August of that year, she went to a prenatal clinic and she was examined by the gynecologist, our own family doctor, and the midwife who was later present at the birth. She had asked if everything was all right. She was told yes. There was only one heartbeat, one set of limbs. On the 4th of October, a little girl was born. 10 minutes later, to everyone's amazement, the second girl was born. I was amazed to see that the younger girl had a scar which went right across the forehead and into the right eye. The younger daughter, who was killed, had the identical scar.
As the twins grew older, Mr. Pollock reports that unusual incidents strengthened his belief that the twins were the reincarnation of his first two daughters. The twins immediately recognized old items of clothing that had belonged to their two sisters. One recreated incident underlines his theory.
I found two dolls that had belonged to the two girls that had been killed, my younger daughters. The elder of the twins picked up a doll and said, "That is my Susan. I haven't seen her for a very long time." The younger of the twins went and picked up the other doll and she said, "That's my Mary, and I haven't seen her for a very long time." These twins had never seen these dolls in their life. They had belonged to their two sisters who had been killed. My wife and I brought the twins to Hexham, to an area well known to the two girls who died. We brought them in proximity of the church and school. Coming along here, where there's a 4-foot-high wall, they were below the height of this wall. They couldn't see what was behind. As we approached, they turned around and said, "There's the school round here, where we used to go, and there is the playground behind it." They could not possibly see this from where they were, and you cannot see the playground in any shape or form from here because it lies behind the school. We proceeded on, and as we approached the Abbey gates, one of them turned to the other and said, "The playground's over here with the swings, where Mummy used to take us." And they turned and said, "Mummy, are you going to take us over there now? You can't see the playground because it lies below that incline. It's impossible to see it from the road."
Today, the twins work in the family bookstore. It has been more than 21 years since their two sisters were killed. Do they agree with their father's belief in reincarnation?
No, not at all, no. Nothing, no different. Sometimes I feel like I'm somebody else, not myself. I don't think of my sisters either, really. I've got no doubt that we haven't been reincarnated to come back as our sisters.
From a series of unusual events, however, John Pollock has fashioned his own unshakable theory of reincarnation.
That my two daughters who had been killed had been reincarnated, they'd been given back. They'd been reborn to us. Outstanding evidence to me, which I looked for, I wanted perhaps, I don't know. But it was given to me and I accepted it as such, as proof.
For many of us, the memory of a past life exists only as fragmented images appearing in our dreams. Yet sometimes these images are so vivid in our minds that we feel compelled to investigate. Can we possibly verify the existence of a previous life? Curus Abbey in Scotland, a favorite retreat for His Majesty King James IV of Scotland during his reign in the 16th century.
Oh, yes, I know this place. And I'm sure this rings a bell. And I'm sure I've been through that gate.
A.J. Stewart believes she is the reincarnation of James IV.
There's the little slight and passage.
In Search of cameras were present when she arrived for her first visit to Curus.
And if you listen very hard, you can still hear them singing. And it's only yesterday. Well, to me, it's only yesterday.
James IV was born in 1488 and was crowned king at the age of 15. His prosperous reign ended tragically when he was slain on the battlefield of Flodden in 1513. The trail of her memories led us into the town of Courus itself. Had she been here before?
And there's the market square. Horses look much better. But always it was like this, of houses piled on top of each other. And always the roofs are like this. They're much later than my time, but...
These observations, although interesting, do not provide us with any conclusive evidence of her past life. The next stop was Traquair House, 50 miles south of Courus. A.J. Stewart said she had never visited here before. As she searched her mind, she became aware of disturbing recollections having nothing to do with her own life.
I have been dreading the journey down because I had an awful feeling it was going to look like I knew it did. And it does. The colouring on the walls is different. It was grey stone then. There was no harling. And I didn't approach that way. I came across the old road where I'm sitting now.
How did A.J. Stewart come to believe that she was once a great king?
Well, it's a gradual process. I'd call it a life's remembering and forgetting, and then the remembering again. And the very sudden confirmation of it was in 1967, when I'd been fighting very hard against these memories that had been thrusting through all the days of my life, and I've been trying to suppress them.
We brought A.J. into the castle through the current entrance added after the death of King James. She said she was immediately disoriented and sensed that perhaps something was out of place. Her first impressions were correct, as this was not the entrance used by James IV. The king would have entered through the secret passage used only by royalty. We first brought A.J. into the room where the king is said to have slept.
They're right about this, you know. This was the king's bedchamber. History hasn't changed. It's like yesterday, and I could be lying down in that same bed. And the portraits, no, the portraits are after my time. These aren't my people, but the room is the height of the walls. That's right. And there's an oratory somewhere, is there not? There ought to be an oratory.
The king used to address his subjects from the balcony off the bedchamber.
This is the window to the oratory, surely. It must be. There's a window that's beyond, because always I must have an oratory.
Like a departed spirit returning home, she describes the room as she says it had been in the king's time.
And I know that fireplace, and there was a great...
But is this a past life memory, or simply imagination?
Not merely metal. There was a stone thing built round, because we had to screen off the heat, because even in the basket, you got this casting of the cinders and the things. But of course, they were kind of silken rugs that were put down for the king, and tapestries. I've been down this stair before.
Could A.J. Stewart, in a past life, have actually descended these steps, which led down a passageway to these stairs, which now lie in ruin, closed to the public? Or are all of her claims merely a romantic notion of history?
It's a place that hasn't changed since my time. The ground always feels like home on places that I have known. No matter what is built on them, the ground will feel the same. Just occasionally I meet a house and I think to myself, this is not nearly what it was like. This is really home to me, and this is my home to me in the 16th century.
Throughout much of the Eastern world, there exists the belief that all human spirits continue beyond physical death as part of the endless cycle of life. This concept is foreign to most Western minds. Like the Pollock twins, many of us do not accept such beliefs. But for others, such as Lucia Capacchione and A.J. Stewart, the possibility of past lives is beyond question. There are people who claim to remember events that happened in a former lifetime. It is a strange phenomenon called reincarnation. There's the story of Maria, a little girl who lived a long time ago in a coastal village of France. Maria had a special touch with living things. It was said she could cure animals and people of illness. The villagers called her a witch and hunted her down in the night. A girl living now remembers every detail of that horrible night as though it had happened to her. Perhaps it did. Men of vision are rare in any time. In the pioneering days of American industrial expansion, Henry Ford was such a man. In his later years, Ford would be acclaimed as the father of the assembly line. Ford's genius embraced another idea. He believed he was immortal. Ford thought that his essential being or soul would be reborn into another body. Reincarnation is a belief that has been expressed by every civilization known to man. The principles governing the cycles of birth, death, and rebirth are called karma. Karma means that a soul progresses from body to body, life to life, until it achieves perfect harmony with the universe. Thus, one who suffers in this life is assured of at least the possibility of a better break in the next.
All right, now lie down and make yourself as comfortable as you can.
Dr. Helen Wambach is a clinical psychologist doing reincarnation research in San Francisco.
Stretch the jaw.
Using the technique of hypnotic regression, she will be the guide on a remarkable journey through time and space.
And all discomfort leaves your body. And you're floating on a cloud, and your body is very, very heavy now. We're going to float back all around the world, back into past time. When I call out the name of a place, let images come into your mind. An image for the Far East, an image for Central Asia, an image for Europe, an image for the Near East and Africa, or an image for North, Central, or South America. Now choose. You have chosen.
I'd more or less picked Scandinavia. I couldn't get out of the snow. The only real scenery was just rolling snow-covered hills, frozen ground. And it seemed like we traveled by foot most of the time from one fishing hole to another, it seemed. And my death was an accident in, one of the journeys, and it was like, it seemed to have something to do with a sled, and it sort of got thrown over and I was just left laying in a snowbank. It seemed to be on the foot of the steps of a pyramid, a temple. The ceremony that I was going to attend was attended by all the members of the village, all the surrounding villages, and it seemed to be a healing. There was some type of a healing going on what seemed to have been maybe the chief of the village. And I remember I had this very strong belief that this was going to be helpful and very great interest.
Dr. Wambach has regressed more than 2,000 persons in her search for scientifically valid data on the reincarnation experience.
Well, actually, I've been searching for 5 years now for evidence that we may have lived before. What I found is what many researchers have found, that there's a tantalizing mix of fantasy and checkable reality in past life recall. My belief was that if we have lived past lives, all of us have lived past lives. And therefore, I ought to be able to explore this phenomenon in the same normative way that a psychologist would go about exploring any other kinds of phenomenon. So I evolved a technique of taking people to past lives that I found to be both safe and reliable, and where I could get repeatable evidence. Elbows down.
Simply put, Dr. Wambach's technique is to plant a post-hypnotic suggestion in the subject's minds, which enables them to fill out an elaborate questionnaire after the session is over. The questionnaires are important because Dr. Wambach finds that during regression, patients are reluctant to have their journey to a past life disturbed by conversation with the hypnotist. However, Dr. Wambach will occasionally use the standard question and answer technique to explore an unusual case.
All right, now, Bob, I want you to go to a time when you are listening to some of the people around you talk, and you will hear the syllables, and you will be able to repeat them.
Nainu Rakakonic kum ta Nainu Rakakonic kum top.
All right, that's fine, Bob. Can you tell me what these words mean? What is being talked about?
In regard to the day's labors, the dissatisfaction with the task, dissatisfaction with the job.
How do you feel about this? Do you feel dissatisfied?
I feel it's all in a day's time, and I'll soon be on my way away from it.
Now, Bob, I want you to move in that lifetime to a time when you are seeing something written. Do you see anything? You will be able to open your eyes without coming out of the hypnotic trance. You will focus intently on the hieroglyphs, and you will be able to copy them.
Dr. Wambach has had an expert at Stanford University study Bob's strange writing. She says the expert has been able to identify 80% of the characters as authentic Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Very good, Bob. Can you tell me now what these hieroglyphs mean?
In reference to a new trade route and treaty of free movement and protection from the highest power for such a venture.
Hi, Bob. Oh. How was it?
Not bad.
Not bad, huh?
Bob is a retired stockbroker.
Yeah.
How could he write and converse in a language that vanished tens of centuries ago, along with the builders of the pyramids?
At the very least, it's a fascinating exercise, this probing of the unconscious mind for scraps of information about past lives. There are more practical aspects to the study of reincarnation. Trauma from a past life sometimes seems to spill over into the present. It is possible that many physical and emotional problems, which defy medical science, can be cured through an understanding of this principle.
In this lifetime, for instance, I've had a series of, since early childhood, seizure type of things that occurred that doctors and priests couldn't explain. That
Shirley Krepp eventually described her problem to Dr. Wambach.
the sensation of going 1,000,000 miles an hour and weighing at least a ton, and it was pretty terrorizing to have that occurring because I couldn't make it stop. During the session where I was regressed to the lifetime as a girl named Maria, this particular seizure started to occur while I was under hypnosis. And it was then that Dr. Wambach took me to that point where it first started to occur.
Under hypnosis, Shirley described herself as a healer in a village on the coast of France. She said her name was Maria, and that she'd been summoned to the constables to help his sick child. The child died.
One evening, after the child had died, on my walk home through the forest, out of the bushes, out of the trees, with torches, the whole village seemed to appear, and they were going to burn Maria as a witch because they thought she'd killed the boy. And they came towards her, they'd get the witch. And I ran as Maria. I didn't want to get caught, and it was then that the sensation started, the sensation that I had been experiencing in this lifetime of absolute stark raving terror. And they chased me, screaming and yelling, and I ran and I ran. And rather than to be caught by them and burnt, I jumped off a cliff. And that was the feeling of weighing 1,000,000 pounds. And as Maria dropped that body and came out of that body, the weight, the speeding sensation stopped completely and abruptly, unlike any of the seizures that I'd had.
It could be coincidence that Shirley's symptoms disappeared after she confronted the nightmare of a prior life. Or it could be just what it appears, using an understanding and karma to calm the restless corner of Shirley's mind that is still Maria. Dr. Wambach's collection of 2,000 apparent reincarnation experiences has yielded some fascinating data. Between 70 and 80% of her subjects remember lives as working-class people or peasants. If these prior lives were imaginary, wouldn't more people think of themselves as royalty rather than accurately reflecting a cross-section of society? In another experiment, a group of white Californians was regressed to the 1850s. An extraordinary number said they were Asians then. Could they have been the Orientals who were imported to build California's railroads? Could they still be with us in new bodies? How many pasts can a person have? The work of other investigators may suggest an answer. The Old Chestnut Inn in Kent, Connecticut, has a history as rich as its setting. Ruth McGuire has quite a history of her own. It appears she may have a number of histories.
I've had very strong feelings about the year 1857 and India. When I was just a child, I picked up a 10-cent piece. I felt terribly depressed. The date meant something to me.
Ruth had heard of Professor Hans Holzer, parapsychologist and author. She invited him to probe her mind for a meaning to the date that bothered her. Using hypnotic regression, Professor Holzer had enjoyed success with similar cases before.
Your name is Ruth McGuire. I want you to go back with me 10 years. 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Where do you live?
In Manhattan.
You are now 10 years old. You are now 9 years old. You are now 7 years old. You're 7 years old. You're 7 years old. You are Ruth McGuire. You're 7 years old. Where do you go to school?
St. Nicholas of Tolentine.
What is your favorite teacher's name?
Sister Bonaventure.
What does she teach you?
Oh, poetry. She declaims poetry.
You are 7 years old. You're 6 years old. You're 5 years old. You're 4 years old. You're 3 years old. You're 2 years old. You're 1 year. You have just been born. I want you to go back beyond the threshold of birth. You're -5, -10, -20. What do you see? Look around you. Where are you?
It's all vapory.
What do you see?
Thick clouds and vapors. Cold. Oh, yes. I know where I am now.
Where are you?
I'm in England.
Where are you? What place?
Sussex.
Where did your father come from?
Horton. It's in the North Riding area.
And your mother?
Durham. That's near Newcastle.
Did you ever get to the New World?
No, I died in Leiden at the age of 13. It was like a dam breaking. The bodies screaming, shouting, pillaging. I ran and hid.
Next, Ruth recalls another life and a crisis in a distant land.
I always dreaded being sent away.
Where were you sent?
We went to India.
Where in India?
Calcutta. And then another place where there was an uprising. The natives were very angry. They didn't want us there. And they came in a body, screaming, shouting, pillaging.
Professor Holzer feels he can probe even deeper into Ruth's multiple past lives.
Now I want you to go back further, beyond your life in India, beyond your life in England. Go back, another incarnation, another life. And what town are we in?
Now we are in Holland. The year is 1613. Smoke in the room.
What sort of smoke?
From the fire. It's smoking the fire.
Where are you to begin with? Where are you now?
Oh, I'm in a room in a cottage, and the fireplace is smoking. It burns my throat. My aunt and my mother are both there, and we have to wait and wait and wait. And there's something about the New World and Passage. There was this large man, and he pinned me against the wall. I was miserable, and I fell overboard. For a moment, I struggled, and then a strange feeling of happiness came over me. I must have been on shipboard. I saw the coffin and the people passing by, and I wanted to tell them, I hear what you're saying. I hear, and I tried to move my arm. I tried, and it was like lead. I couldn't move. I couldn't wiggle. I couldn't even move my nose. I couldn't indicate that I was there and I was listening. I seemed to be moving on a ribbon towards a great light.
What was the next sensation that followed?
There were people. I saw shadows and presences and people I didn't know. But my mother, yes, I saw my mother, and there was a comforting feeling that I had found her at last.
For Ruth McGuire, the session was a revelation. The controversial concept of karma made sense to her and seemed to explain so many things. Whatever she might have suffered in past lives only seemed now to increase her chance of serenity in this one. Dr. William Yaney is a psychiatrist who has devoted years to the study of reincarnation and the laws of karma.
Where I sit, I really see life as really a schoolroom. We're living in a very, very narrow spectrum, a very narrow dimension, as our parapsychologists are beginning to describe to us, tell us. I really see what we've got here is a soul utilizing an expendable body, so to speak, in a lifetime, a given span of time and space, to learn something.
Dr. Yaney believes the vast and complex cycle of birth, death, and rebirth must be controlled by a higher order of intelligence. Someone must be minding the store, so to speak. Who or what that force is remains one of the great puzzles confronting mankind.